high above the pulsing heart of Rio de Janeiro, tucked within the folds of the Bintang Hills, lies a place that hums with unanswered questions, a place where time feels slightly off-kilter and the air tastes faintly of static. In August of 1966, two men ascended that hill and never came back down. Not alive, at least. Their bodies were discovered days later, lying side by side in matching suits and waterproof raincoats, each with a lead mask covering their eyes. No signs of injury, no trace of violence, no clear cause of death, just silence. And a single cryptic note referencing luminous beings. This is the true and chilling tale of the lead masks case. A mystery so peculiar, so disquieting, that even decades later, it resists resolution. Was it science? Was it spiritualism? Was it something else entirely? Let's climb that hill. Our first order of business here today is that we gotta time travel all the way back to the afternoon of August 20th, 1966. A local boy wandered up the slope of Morro do Vintém in Niterói. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of that, but it is a quiet suburb across the bay from Rio. He was just hunting for kites, perhaps chasing that gust of wind and after the excitement of boyhood wonder. But what he had stumbled upon instead would shatter the entire town's tranquility for years to come. There, among the tall grass and thickets of wiry brush, were two bodies, eerily still, neatly arranged. The two men were dressed almost identically. Formal suits, impermeable raincoats layered over their shoulders, and most disturbingly, lead masks carefully placed over their eyes, as though shielding them from some invisible brilliance. Not gas masks, not helmets, just solid molded lead, cut into rough makeshift visors, thick, expressionless, heavy. Their pockets held a peculiar collection of items: a water bottle, two wet towels, and a handwritten note in Portuguese that read, 1630, be at the determined place. 1830, ingest capsules, after effect, protect metals, await signal mask. Await signal. Mask. What kind of signal? What kind of mask? The questions spread like wildfire. The answers, however, remained maddeningly elusive. The two deceased were soon identified as Manoel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel José Viana, two friends in their 30s, both respected electronic technicians from the neighboring town of Campos dos Goitacazes. Quiet, diligent men, skilled with circuits and soldering irons. To outsiders, they seemed ordinary, unremarkable even. But within their tight-knit circle, they harbored fascinations that blurred the line between science and the supernatural. Witnesses reported that the men had spoken in hushed tones of spiritual experiments, of forces unseen, of contact. On the morning of August 17th, the two men had left town under the pretense of buying work supplies. They boarded a bus bound for Niterói, telling their families they'd return soon. Miguel even promised his mother he'd be home by nightfall. Instead, they checked into a hotel and purchased water. They curiously asked for a dated receipt, as if they were keeping track of and documenting their movements. As the day waned, they vanished. 3 days later, their lifeless bodies turned up under a heavy sky. The autopsy was inconclusive. Their bodies were too decomposed to determine a cause of death. No trauma, no wounds, no evidence of poisoning, though toxicology was notably incomplete. And so speculation bloomed. One theory, a failed science experiment. The men, so deeply invested in technology and science, attempted to contact a being from another dimension or even outer space. The lead masks, a crude attempt to shield their eyes from an intense, perhaps radioactive or celestial light. Others whispered about psychedelics. The cryptic note did suggest timed ingestion of capsules, perhaps hallucinogens intended to heighten perception and facilitate contact with luminous beings. But what beings? Some believed in extraterrestrials, others leaned more towards spiritualism. Brazil in the 1960s was a patchwork of Catholicism, folk magic, and a burgeoning interest in the metaphysical. Spiritist groups weren't uncommon, and the men were linked to one that believed in astral projection and interdimensional travel. Could this have been a ritual, a rite, a fatal misstep in seeking enlightenment? Still, others weren't so romantic. Perhaps they were duped, set up, victims of a cruel hoax or an orchestrated scam, promised transcendence, handed death. But none of those theories explain why there was no sign of panic, why the bodies lay side by side undisturbed in unnatural calm. It was as if they were just waiting. The masks became the centerpiece of the mystery. Heavy, homemade, and crude. They clearly weren't for breathing protection. No, their purpose was singular, to cover the eyes. Lead is a powerful metal, dense, protective, historically used to guard against radiation. Were these men expecting an overwhelming light, a blinding vision, perhaps the very face of something divine or extraterrestrial? And why both men? Why synchronized deaths? Why no attempt to run or even call for help? Experts found no mechanical devices, no ritual materials, no gadgets or transmitters. Just two men, some towels, a water bottle, a note, and those inscrutable masks. In the years that followed, rumors grew like tangled vines. Some pointed to an underground sect, a spiritualistic group that was obsessed with contacting higher beings. One former associate claimed that the men had been conducting dangerous experiments, chasing an encounter with beings of light. Others latched onto the UFO explanation, bolstered by reports of strange lights around the time of their death. Blips of bright lights above the hillside, humming sounds through the dark. Local journalists dug deeper, uncovering that similar masks had been found in previous months associated with other lesser-known spiritualist rituals. But the police eventually closed the case, calling it an accidental death. Though without any definitive cause, the label felt hollow, unanswered, unsettling. So, what truly happened on that hill in August of 1966? Were two men victims of their own curiosity, drawn into a ritual they didn't fully understand? Did they overdose on substances meant to bring enlightenment, only to meet silence instead? Or did they, as some believe, succeed in making contact? Not with something imagined, but something real. Something radiant, yet ultimately fatal. The lead masks case remains unsolved. A riddle with no clean edges, a story that tiptoes along the border of science and superstition, between belief and bewilderment. In the end, all we have are the fragments, a cryptic note, two lifeless bodies, and the heavy hush of a mystery that still clings to that hillside. Thank you so very, very much for watching. If this mystery stirred up your imagination, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe for more videos like this, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss another one again. Listen, I would love to know in the comments, what do you think those masks were for? And after all this, would you dare climb up that mountain? Until next time, stay curious and more importantly, stay safe.